A stone church holding 200 people has its own acoustics. Every cough gets a career. Every heel click on the marble echoes twice. The wedding planner had actually bragged about it. The sound in this space, David, your vows will just carry. She was right. They carried beautifully. I stood at the altar in a tailored tuxedo I'd paid for myself, next to a priest with kind eyes, in front of 200 guests, $40,000 of white roses, and a string quartet. Chloe faced me in a custom dress, veil back, glowing, holding my hands, wearing the expression she wears when a camera is somewhere in the room. There were 3 cameras. The priest smiled and said, "David has prepared his own vows." I had. I took out my phone. A soft laugh rippled through the pews. The modern groom, reading vows off a phone. Adorable. Chloe did an indulgent little head tilt for the videographer. I tapped the screen twice. The venue's sound system, which I'd had linked to my phone at the rehearsal for the surprise slideshow, came alive with a low hum, and I leaned toward the microphone and began to read. Cold. October 9th, 11:42 p.m. Chloe to a group chat titled The Escape Plan. Quote, "Girls, relax. David is a boring ATM with a pulse. I smile, he transfers. 1 year of marriage max, then I file and I walk out debt-free with a story." End quote. The laugh in the pews died mid-breath. Chloe's hands went rigid inside mine. "Those are her vows," I said. "I thought you should hear them first. Mine are shorter. Let me back up 10 months. I'm David, 33. I'm an architect. Commercial work mostly, hospitals and schools. It's a profession that rewires you. You learn that every beautiful facade is either holding weight or hiding a problem, and your whole job is knowing which. Keep that sentence. It's the story in miniature. I make good money and live below it. 8-year-old Audi, paid off. A 1-bedroom I bought at the bottom of the market. My one luxury are drafting pens I'm precious about. By 32, I'd saved close to 300 grand, not because I'm a monk, but because I like the specific quiet that money in the bank produces. My father went bankrupt twice. I grew up inside the noise. I built the opposite. Chloe was 28, and Chloe was presentation. I want to be fair to the beginning. She was funny, she was warm when the light hit right, and she had a talent I mistook for love. She paid attention. Total, flattering, note-taking attention. It took me 2 years to understand she paid attention the way a surveyor does. She was mapping the site. Her life ran on Instagram. 22,000 followers, brunches arranged by color, a boyfriend introduced to the feed before he was introduced to her mother. I told myself it was generational. I told myself a lot of things. In a calm architect voice, which is the most dangerous voice because you believe it. The wedding budget arrived in tiers, like a parking structure. First it was $30,000, intimate, tasteful. Then her bridesmaid Madison got engaged and it was $60,000. Then a girl from her gym had 200 guests at a vineyard, and suddenly we needed the cathedral room at the Belmont estate, a string quartet, peonies out of season, and a videography package with a drone. $100,000. Her parents, who are loud about money in the way of people who are quiet about debt, contributed opinions. I agreed to pay it. All of it. I want to be honest about why, because he loved her is true but incomplete. I paid because I decided she was the plan, and I fund my plans. That's the flaw in men like me. We mistake our own commitments for evidence of hers. The disrespect was never loud. It was ambient. Her friends called me the calculator to my face. "We're joking, Dave. You're so serious." At her birthday dinner, Chloe told the table I'd probably propose via spreadsheet, and everyone howled, and I laughed too, because a man at a table laughing at himself is loved, right up until he checks the load-bearing math. A Tuesday in January, 11:30 p.m. I came downstairs for water. Chloe was asleep. Her iPad was on the counter charging, face up, unlocked. She never locked it, a detail I'd once found endearing, evidence of a person with nothing to hide. The screen was glowing. A notification sat on the lock screen. Group chat, The Escape Plan. Madison. OMG, did he transfer the venue deposit yet? I stood there with my water glass and read that sentence maybe 4 times. There are moments the brain refuses to process on the first pass, like a structural drawing where a beam lands on nothing. You keep rereading, waiting for the support to appear. I opened the chat, and here's the thing I'll tell you that nobody prepares you for. The feeling isn't heat. Everyone assumes rage, shaking hands, a thrown glass. What actually happened was that I went procedural. Some deep site inspector part of me took the clipboard, and I stood in my kitchen at midnight for 50 minutes and performed a full document review of my own life. 8 months of messages. Chloe and her 3 bridesmaids. I'll give you the findings in order of discovery, not severity. Finding 1. The mockery. Constant, casual, recreational. My clothes, my car, voice memos of me imitating her. Per my last email, I love you, with crying laughing emojis from all 3 deputies. I was the calculator, the ATM, and once memorably, the mortgage with a face. Finding 2. Ryan, her ex. The one who was basically a brother now, the one on our wedding guest list, seated, I'd find out later, I'd paid $11 for his rack of lamb. Photos from a hotel in Scottsdale, from the weekend she was at Madison's bachelorette. Photos I won't describe. The caption on one, what he doesn't know pays for the venue. Madison replied, Chloe. Madison was my pick for most likely to have a conscience. Noted for the record, she did not. Finding 3, and this was the one that reorganized everything. The ledger. Chloe had $41,000 in credit card debt across 5 cards I'd never seen. Hidden accounts, hidden statements, a P.O. box on Fenwick Avenue, and laid out in the chat in her own typing with her own timeline. Marry me in June, consolidate as a married couple by fall, his credit is literally perfect LOL, then file within a year. She'd Googled the state's divorce laws and pasted screenshots. The wedding wasn't a wedding, it was a bridge loan with catering. I screenshotted everything, methodically. I airdropped the files to my phone, emailed them to an account she didn't know existed, deleted the sent record, wiped the notification, and put the iPad back at the exact angle I found it. Then I refilled my water glass because I'd come down for water. Then I went upstairs and got into bed next to her, and lay in the dark doing the thing I do at work when a client's beautiful facade turns out to be hiding rot. I stopped mourning the design, and I started drafting the demolition plan. Step 1 was a decision most men skip. I did nothing for 4 days. No hints, no sudden coldness. In my experience, the first move you make while angry is the move you spend a year paying for. On day 5, I took the screenshots to a lawyer. Elaine, family law, 2 decades in. She scrolled through the chat archive without expression. I suspect nothing has surprised her since the 90s. And then she gave it to me straight, which is why I'm repeating her advice verbatim, because it's the reason this worked. First, you're not married yet. That makes you lucky, not safe. Called off weddings generate lawsuits. Deposits, gifts, the ring. Everything we do must be clean enough to survive her lawyer reading about it later. Second, the contracts. Right now, the venue and the caterer and the quartet point at you. You're the signatory. Walk away today and you eat 60% of $100,000. Call it 60,000. But contracts can be novated, transferred, all liability, with every party's signed consent. It's routine. Families restructure who's paying all the time for their own reasons. If her side signs the novation freely, the debt is theirs, no matter what happens on the day. Third, and she looked at me over her glasses, you're not obligated to lie about anything material. You're obligated not to falsify documents. Learn the difference and stay on the right side of it. So, the maneuver. Chloe's parents, Rick and Donna, are the kind of people whose vanity does your work for you. Rick introduces himself by his golf handicap. Over dinner at their club, I explained, with an apologetic accountant's shrug, that my CPA wanted the wedding contracts restructured, moved into their family's name for tax treatment reasons on my end, while I'd obviously still be handling the funds. I slid the novation packet across the table. Rick said, and I want this carved somewhere, "Smart. This is why you're marrying up, son. We know how money works." He signed without reading past page 1. Donna signed where Rick pointed. Chloe signed at the kitchen counter between Instagram stories, annoyed I'd interrupted golden hour. Was the tax purposes framing a full and generous account of my motives? No. Was every sentence in that packet accurate? Every signature informed and voluntary? Every party receiving exactly the document it claimed? Yes. Elaine's line. You're not obligated to share your feelings. You're obligated not to falsify documents. Learn the difference and stay on the right side of it. The vendors countersigned within 2 weeks. They don't care whose name pays, only that a name does. The deposits I'd already paid stayed spent. I wrote them off internally as tuition. Every future payment obligation, the 70 plus grand due around the wedding date, now pointed at the Whitmore family. Then I quietly moved my savings into a trust Elaine structured, updated every beneficiary, and changed nothing else about my visible life. The month itself was the real cost, and I won't minimize it. 30 nights next to her, cake tastings where she fed me frosting off her finger for the camera, her mother crying at the dress fitting, Chloe falling asleep on my shoulder during a movie, warm and easy, while her phone lit up on the armrest with a chat called The Escape Plan. There were 2 or 3 nights I nearly folded. Not out of love exactly, but out of the sheer weight of pretending. What kept me straight was rereading one screenshot, the one where Madison asked, "What if he finds out?" And Chloe replied, "He won't. He's not built for it. He'll just quietly pay, like always." I'm an architect. Being told what I'm built for is a professional trigger. June 14th was flawless. I'd checked the weather like any groom. 200 guests. The cathedral room glowed. The peonies, out of season, flown in, itemized, were, I admit, spectacular. Ryan sat in the third row on the bride's side in a blue suit, smug as a man who believes he's the only one at the wedding who knows something. Chloe came down the aisle on Rick's arm to the quartet, and she was beautiful, and I let myself feel the full ache of that for exactly the length of the processional. It's a real loss. You don't get to skip it. You only get to schedule it. I'd scheduled it for the processional. Vows, phone, the soft laugh, the tap. I read October 9th first, the ATM message, the 1-year plan. Then I read November 3rd, 40K gone the second the consolidation clears. God bless his credit score. Then January, Scottsdale, and I read the caption slowly. What he doesn't know pays for the venue. And I looked up from the phone into the third row and said, the hotel was the Fairmont Princess. The other guest is here today. Ryan, stand up. You're on the seating chart as family friend. Chair 11. I paid for your lamb. 200 heads rotated at once. Ryan did not stand up. Ryan performed the seated version of a man trying to become upholstery. Somewhere behind me, a bridesmaid, Madison, made a sound like a kettle taken off the heat too late. Chloe had gone through the stations. Confusion, then the reach. David, baby, this is a joke. Someone hacked. And then, when I read her own screenshot of the divorce statute with her own commentary, 1 year is nothing, girls, I did 4 with Ryan's mom in the picture. She arrived at the only true thing she said all day, which was nothing. I turned to her parents in the front pew. Rick, Donna, 2 items. 1, your daughter is carrying $41,000 in secret credit card debt. 5 cards, statements to a P.O. box on Fenwick Avenue. The consolidation plan was me. 2, and I took the folded invoice out of my tuxedo pocket, the final Belmont estate statement, balance due on receipt. In March, you signed the transfer of every wedding contract into your family's name. You called it smart. You said you know how money works. I let the invoice fall against Chloe's dress. It slid down the white satin and landed at the hem, which the videographer, a professional to the end, captured in what I'm told is crisp 4K. $73,400 due today to the venue from the Whitmore family. The wedding is canceled. The party, legally speaking, is yours. Enjoy the peonies. I thanked the priest sincerely. None of this was his fault and he'd been kind. And I walked back down the aisle alone at a normal pace through a silence so total I could hear the drone hovering outside the windows filming the exits. Here's what the aisle sounds like from the other direction. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And then, just as the doors closed behind me, the room detonated. Through 2 inches of oak, I heard Donna's shriek hit a register the quartet couldn't have notated, Billow rowing the word lawyer as if it were a fire exit, and under it all, rising, the unmistakable sound of 200 guests turning into 200 witnesses. The voicemail started before I reached the highway. I saved them all. Elaine's instruction, everything preserved, and they chart the evening like seismograph paper. 5:40 p.m. Chloe, screaming, mostly vows. 7:15 p.m. Chloe, suddenly sweet. Baby, come back, we can fix this. It was girl talk, you know how Madison is. 9 p.m. Rick, threatening to sue me for fraud, a call I forwarded to Elaine, who replied to his lawyer with the signed novation, the chat archive, and a one-line cover note I'd frame if framing weren't gloating. Our client is available to discuss the contents of Exhibit A at your convenience. Rick's lawyer, I'm told, read Exhibit A and got very quiet. 11:52 p.m. Chloe, flat and cold for the first time, the mask finally the whole way off. You think you won something. You're going to die alone with your spreadsheets. It's the nicest thing she ever said to me. At least it was honest. The Belmont estate, to its credit, was unmoved by the drama. Venues have seen everything and pursued the signatories with the serene persistence of an institution holding paper. The Whitmores paid. Then, per 3 separate mutual acquaintances, the Whitmores discovered the $41,000 was real, and the Fairmont was real, and the family Thanksgiving is now conducted in shifts. Ryan lasted 11 days past the wedding. It turns out the appeal of another man's fiancée is the other man part, the financing, and Madison's own engagement quietly dissolved when her fiancé, who was in the 4th row, requested a look at her group chats. He was not built for it either, apparently. He found out anyway. And me? 26 hours later, I was in seat 2A somewhere over the Indian Ocean holding a glass of champagne I hadn't opened yet. The honeymoon was non-refundable. 10 nights, over-water villa, Maldives, booked in my name, paid from my account, the one contract I never transferred. I kept it the way you keep one room of a condemned building because the light in it was never the problem. I drank the champagne over the ocean and did the final inspection. Honestly, the way I'd want it done on any project of mine. Losses, the deposits I'd already paid. Call it 30 grand. Tuition. 2 years I don't get back. One version of a future. Demolished on schedule. Findings. The facade was never holding weight. The foundation was someone else's debt. The whole structure was designed from the first drawing to collapse on me in year 1. I spent 10 days alone in a villa built on stilts over clear water, and I want to report something true about it. I wasn't lonely for a single hour. There's a specific quiet that money in the bank produces. There's a better one produced by knowing exactly what's load-bearing in your life and exactly what was decoration. She said I'd die alone with my spreadsheets. Maybe, but the spreadsheets never lied to me, never invoiced me, and never once called me an ATM. And the villa, for the record, had a spectacular view, bought and paid for, in full, by the calculator.